All right, Scott Grayson. I let the cat out of the bag. Nobody passed last night, but we did have some Fs, and people like to hear juicy Fs. So who failed, in your opinion, in that debacle of an effort last night against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football?
Well, I think the bigger question is who didn't fail. That was an abomination. I mean, I'm jealous of all the people who could go to bed at halftime. I obviously had to keep watching that thing just in case something happened or something needed to be added for the grades. But yeah, it was bad. And I'll give you the biggest one of all for me was Nick Sirianni. I think the blame has to go squarely on him. That team did not look ready to play. I felt like his play calling was scared. It was reactionary to the fact that they went down 7-0 right away. And on their first possession, I felt like he ripped up the game script, if there was one, and just decided we've got to throw the ball and throw the ball and throw the ball. And I mean, it was worse than Doug Peterson's games. There was no running. It was unreal, the amount of lack of – you have Miles Sanders in the backfield, and you gave him I didn't even look at how many touches he ended with, but I know it was probably around 5 or 6. That guy I keep saying every week, and you look back at what worked in week 1, Miles Sanders had 19 touches. He had far less than that last week or yesterday. And the problem for me is just that now the last 2 games, I saw no adjustments from Sirianni. The passing to run ratio was abysmal in the first half. And he went in the locker room and nobody said anything to him about it to show any changes in the second half. And I tweeted this out at one point. They came out at the near the end of the first half like they were trying to score 13 points in 2 minutes to win the game instead of trying to score something at the end of the first half to build momentum into the second half. Get something to work. Get something going. And to me, Sirianni failed big time. This is the 3rd week in a row. The penalties have been a huge problem. I think that falls on the coaching staff to now start holding these players accountable in a big way. There's a lot to fix here, and I don't know how long it's going to take him to fix it. It does not look good right now.
All right, Grayson's grades, F for the head coach, Nick Sirianni. A couple other Fs. One went to defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. And it's not like I say, hey, hate to say I told you so, but everybody hated Jim Schwartz, wanted him gone. And I said, look, you're going to bring another guy in here, and you're going to bitch and moan about that guy. And last night you saw a guy, 2 high safeties. Dak Prescott played him like a fiddle.
Yeah, you're right. And they did a good job on the broadcast, I thought, of explaining how that was happening and what Prescott was looking for. Again, adjustments, a lack of it. There was not that. And there were bad penalties on defense as well. And I wrote this in there. I think the penalties go on him as well. I think the coaching staff all around needs to be accountable for that, and he needs to hold his defensive players accountable for that. But yeah, I mean, you look at what that defense, and the one little asterisk I'll put next to them is that defense had to be tired because the offense was on the field and off the field in a hurry, and that defense was right back out there having to try to do their thing. The time of possession was abysmal. So the defense was constantly out there with very little time to try to adjust, and then also with very little rest to try to get back out there. But anytime that they had the opportunity to try to get off the field, they couldn't do it. That's the 2nd week in a row that that's happened. And you're right. Dak Prescott read them. He read them easily. He did what he wanted with them. The running game was working very well for Dallas. I don't remember the Eagles really, other than maybe one time, winning first down. And if you can't win first down, it's going to be very hard to win a game because that team's just going to keep moving the chains. And that's exactly what Dallas did. Disappointed all around in the defense and their lack of ability to try to get a big stop. I know, fine, give me the Fletcher Cox touchdown. That was nice. They needed it at that moment to get something to happen. But, we're still lacking turnovers forced by this defense. We're lacking pressure on the quarterback. There's a lot to fix here again. Same thing with Sirianni. A lot to fix, and it's going to take a lot of time to do it, and that's something this team does not have.
Yeah, Scott Grayson. Grayson's grades are over at 97.3 ESPN.com. F for Gannon, F for Sirianni, F for the offensive line. Now, this one I'm interested to see. Obviously, you had some injury issues. You lost Sayamala for the year now. Brooks is already done for multiple weeks. You're out Mailata. I don't know that I agree with an F. Why'd you give him an F? I thought the line was okay, especially being asked to pass block all night long.
Well, see, I agree with you in that sense is what did you ask this offensive line to do? You asked them to do, in my opinion, something that was their weakness. You've got new guys on that line, and offensive line will tell you all the time, it's a lot easier to run block than it is to pass block because you're going downhill instead of trying to backpedal and hold. guys upright and give your quarterback time. I felt like Jalen Hurts, when he dropped back to pass, didn't have time to throw. I felt like that Cowboys defensive line was abusing the weaknesses on that offensive line. So as a whole, it made them look bad. They couldn't run anything downfield. Therefore, the Cowboys were constantly coming with their ears pinned back, and they were playing the short pass. And that's what the Eagles, that's all that Jalen Hurts had time to throw. So I blame the offensive line for the lack of pass protection. But like I said, I think you also have to give the offensive line a little bit of leeway to say they were asked to pass block pretty much exclusively. The Cowboys then got to come at them hard every time. There were too many holding penalties as well. Lane Johnson got called for several of those. That's not typical of Lane Johnson. These are all things that have to be fixed. And I think a little bit more balance would have helped that offensive line out. But you mentioned Amalu out now. That's one place we knew this offensive line, or that this team did not have a lot of depth, was offensive line. Now it's being exposed. And good luck with an upset, frustrated, and angry Chiefs team coming to town knowing that you have a weak offensive line.
Yes. Now, the offensive line is interesting because Dickerson, obviously, they drafted in the second round. They had high hopes. I thought he was iffy last night.
Mm-hmm.
There were some reports that he was limping off the field at the end of the game. Now you're probably going to have to go with Herbig back at one of the guard spots. It's the one thing, Scott, we said, look, this team can compete if their line stays healthy. Unfortunately, you've now gone right back to where you were last year with three guys. You're probably going to, I would imagine, they'll probably move Dickerson from right guard to left guard, Herbig from left guard to right guard, so you're going to have new guys there. You have no idea what's going to happen at the tackle spot, and I think it's only a matter of time before Jason Kelce, who's the oldest guy of the group, something happens to him, and Lane Johnson hasn't been very dependable.
No, and Sayamalu was pretty much your backup center too. So if Kelce goes down, you're looking at a problem at.
I would imagine they use Dickerson.
I mean, the sirens need to be going off right now inside NovaCare that offensive line. Forget even any of the scenarios you laid out possibly taking place, because at that point, then you're pushing the panic button hard and heavy. It's that offensive line is going to be a mess. So now this is where you got to look at your play caller, and that's going to be Nick Sirianni right now, and say, you've got to scheme something that allows that offensive line to build some kind of confidence. Because right now, I can guarantee you they're shaken. They don't have much confidence. They aren't even really confident in the guy lined up next to them because they probably don't even know their names. They got to wear stickers this week to say, hi, my name is, because these guys are not used to working together. I'll tell you, they're going to accelerate trying to get Brandon Brooks and Mailata back, but you can't really accelerate that. I don't know where you're going to find the help that they need on that offensive line. And then the biggest thing to me is, you've got to run the ball. I mean, at least let these guys have a chance to just make a block for a split second and shoot Miles Sanders or Gainwell through there. Then you start working the perimeter. I mean, they were asking on the Manning cast last night where these tight ends, where are the tight ends? I mean, they're not even hitting them much. Don't give me the Zach Ertz touchdown late in the game. The Cowboys at that point had stopped playing defense.
No, but if anything, you had 2 catches for 66 yards out of Goddard. I mean, the tight end was there. We talked about it on Monday with Casey Joyner. We talked about it on Friday with Sal Paolantonio. We talked about it last Friday with Sal Pal against the 49ers. The tight ends have to be a part of this offense. They're your most dependable guys with a young quarterback and young outside weapons. It's malpractice, Scott, that they're not using Zach Ertz, the greatest tight end in the history of the franchise, and Dallas Goedert, maybe the best weapon that this team currently has, and Miles Sanders to get 2 carries. I mean, I can't believe we're looking at an offensive game plan that's worse than what we saw in weeks last year. It's unfathomable. Now, that being said, let's go to the D's, because you gave Jalen Hurts a D, and if you looked at the numbers, 25 of 39, not terrible, 326. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but the 2 interceptions really hurt, and I thought he had a rough night at the office in some areas. He had plays to be made. That number, those 326, could have been almost 400 if he made some connections.
Yeah, you talk about a play that could have been made. Talk about the tight end again. I mean, you had Goddard open in the flat with Ertz out downfield blocking, and that play could have gone for another 30, 40, or even touchdown on that one if they would have connected, and it was just off his fingertips on a little bit of a bad throw by Hurts. I gave Hurts a D and not an F for this simple reason. You're right. The 2 interceptions hurt. They can't happen. And I've always said that this team, the way it's constructed, can compete in any game as long as they don't turn it over. And the 2 turnovers really hurt. So that's one area that's got to be better. But just like I did with the offensive line in a way, although I still gave them an F, I think you've got to take into account what Hurts was asked to do. Sirianni asked him to go out there and single-handedly win the game, to drop back and pass that many times and throw the ball and not expect the Cowboys to get back there in his face. It's just foolish. It's reckless. And I thought, in terms of evaluating Hurts, you had to take into account what he was asked to do. And to me, that's putting way too much on a young and inexperienced. It's putting too much on any quarterback to have that kind of lack of balance on your run pass play percentages. And so therefore I thought Hurts was okay. But you're right. His numbers, not terrible. But there was just a lot wrong with all that last night. And then I put a lot of the finger pointing at Sirianni for the play calling, and Hurts, was trying to check out of a lot of stuff. I don't know if you noticed that, especially in the second half. There were a lot of checks taking place at the line, and there was just nothing that could work. And you talk about offensive line, the injuries there, the rush that was constantly on top of Hurts, the lack of creative play calling. I felt like, I wasn't going to give Hurts an F, but a D is nothing to take home and brag about either.
No, I mean, he did make a couple of plays, but, the interception on the first drive, he makes the nice throw to start the game off to Goddard, then the throw's underthrown, the miss to Goddard. I mean, those two alone drop you a grade there. I know it was a late game. There's certain guys that didn't get grades, but I thought Devonta Smith slipping and falling. He hasn't been able – he had that drop over the middle. I mean, I thought that drop was more on him than it was Hurts. I would say he's been a disappointment in these last couple of games. The linebackers had a rough night at the office. I mean, man, the Cowboys said, you want to play there and you got those two guys, we'll run at you all day long. There was a lot to unpack on this. Now, we got a lot of text messages here coming in that people want to get answered. So let's get a couple of that have been sent in here. We'll love to see the – okay, let's start over here. 609-403-0973 if you want to send in a text. Guys, would love to see a spreadsheet of Hurts throws. Seems that 2/3 of the field aren't options, only throws to the right side. Do you feel that he cuts off half the field?
I felt like last night he didn't have time to work through his progressions to possibly see the other side of the field. And keep in mind, who was on the left side protecting his blind side?
Dillard.
It's Andre Dillard. So I think he knew that he wasn't going to have much time to look over there. But I think it's a great point from your listener that, look, if teams are picking up that he's only kind of looking at 2/3 of the field, you don't have to defend that other side as tightly. And that then makes an advantage for the defense. And that's something that, this team needs to self-scout. And now they got a short week. They don't have time to even do that. But they have to do a little self-scouting and realize where their mistakes are and what they're doing. And that's one of them. It's not a bad observation that they don't seem to always survey the entire field. And look, week one, they beat a team they should have beaten, and they were doing the things they should have been able to do. That offense was, I thought, using the whole field.
I thought the offense in week one, the offense in week one, Scott, accentuated the positives of the talent they have. They got the bubble screens, they got short plays in space, let guys with speed make plays. They didn't have to take shots down the field because they have enough speed in small areas to let those guys work. And I thought they did a really good job, and I was excited. Wow, they accentuated the positives of the players that they had. They utilized the talent the way that it should be used. And then all of a sudden, you go into this, you've completely regressed since week number one. A couple ones. It's very tough to judge Hurts now, but I think he's a Teddy Bridgewater level quarterback. So that's someone I would move on from or try to upgrade with all the draft capitals that the Eagles have. I said earlier, Scott, I guess the question is, you guys ready to judge or make a assertion? I'm not ready to decide on Hurts, but I said if you put maybe make a decision, put me on the spot, I would say he's not the guy.
I'm still leaning. I'm not ready to make a decision on him either, Mike, because I feel like that for the benefit of this team, if you have those 3 first-round picks and you want to do something with them, I think you can build more around Hurts and give him more of an ability to be successful. I think what he had last night around him was not going to allow him to do much, successful. I'm not ready to commit to giving up on him yet. I still think I see a lot of things I do like. It's just not consistent right now. It's not sustained, and that's got to get better. I mean, 3 games in, it's hard to really evaluate this guy and this offense under this coach, but you know how he's doing it. He's got that draft capital, and look at that draft capital, by the way. The Colts, Wentz is playing, and they're losing. That could be a very high first-round pick. The Dolphins are also losing. That could be a high pick. The way the Eagles are playing, they could have another high. I mean, these could be 3 really high picks.
Right now,
I'm still not ready to go to Deshaun Watson, though. Who else is out there that you really want to move for with that capital?
I know that a lot of people, because of the shady gray area background, but I think it's inevitable that if he's available, they're going to make a move for him.
You're probably right. I'm just not sure that I want to do that, especially knowing you're going to have to absorb a suspension as part of it.
I know you're at Fox 29, but right now the Eagles draft capital is like cable back in the day, or network TV. 3, 6, and 10 is what the draft choices are currently. All right, a couple more texts here with Scott Grayson. Grayson's grades. Number 1, guys, the coaching staff is a big problem. I'm not ready to, completely bail on this. And Doug Peterson, his first year, there were times where you weren't sure he was getting through the first year, and that was after he won the first couple games that he coached. In the middle there, they were abysmal decisions that he was making. I remember how I was like, and I think there was a report that first year about they don't know if he's going to make it through the year. It was so bad, and then the guy wins the Super Bowl. So I'm not ready to say I'm out on Sirianni yet.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think you've got to give the guy – this is his first head coaching job. There's going to be growing pains. I think week 1 suddenly changed everybody's expectations to think, oh, hey, they can make a run at this thing and win this division. And look, the reality is setting in. This is pretty much what they are. They're going to be a Jekyll and Hyde team. They're going to probably beat the teams they should and lose to the teams that they should. So they're going to be about a 500 team when you look at their schedule. And so you look at that and you think, well, okay – But you got before the season started. I said you got to give Hurts and you got to give Sirianni a full year together and then sit down at the end of it and evaluate both of them. So far, Sirianni to me has been a disappointment. I would have liked to have seen when McCarthy was stupid enough to let that clock run down in the first half, and it was 4th and 5 on their side, just on their side of the field. You need something to happen to spark your team. Go for it on 4th and 5.
What
Maybe
about
get 10 yards?
What about Scott? A lot of people are texting in about they didn't run the ball. It's not Philly ball. This guy's finesse. He doesn't call runs. That report that essentially said they won the game and Laurie was not happy that they won because they ran the ball too much. I mean, does that factor in to think of this is why the game plan is what it is?
Well, I tweeted out last night at one point, I was wondering if Jeff Lurie was the offensive coordinator for that game because the pass. It begs the question, and a young coach like that, you got to believe is going to be influenced by the owner in a big way. If he came down and said, hey, congratulations on that win, but, I'd really like to see some more passing because that's just more fun. Well, he's likely going to try to find a way to do that. But I mean, I don't know that played in last night, too. I just think Sirianni was playing like a coach who was behind by 20 when he was only down 7 and started throwing the ball like it was Madden. And this was crazy. It doesn't work in real life.
Scott Grayson, Grayson's grades after every Eagles game. Eagles-Chiefs on Sunday. That game opened at 8.5. It's 7 now. I know you do props and locks, and I'm sure you'll study that line. But a lot of money early came in on those Eagles when it went at 8.5. It's already dropped down to 7. The Chiefs have not been a cover team. They have not covered numbers. So we'll see. Andy Reid's back in town. The Chiefs coming off 2 straight losses. Doesn't sound like a good recipe for the Eagles. That's the game where Grayson will grade. He'll be back right here on the Sports Bash with Grayson's grades next Monday. All right, Scott, take care, man.
All right, you too, Mike. Good to see you again.
That's Scott Grayson, everybody from Fox 29, and you can check out Grayson's grades after every Eagles game over at 97.3 ESPN.com. And Grayson's grades are brought to you by Boardwalk Honda. From Maine to Miami, nobody beats a Boardwalk deal. Online at BoardwalkHonda.com.